Okay, get ready for this one because today we're going deep, deep into a real Cold War thriller.
Yeah.
You sent us this incredible document.
I know. It's amazing.
It's a declassified CIA paper.
Right?
All about Operation Gold,
Hmm.
which you might know as the Berlin Tunnel.
Ah, the Berlin Tunnel.
We've got photos, we've got press clippings.
Wow.
To really bring this thing to life.
Can't.
1950s espionage.
Oh, yeah.
It's about to get sneaky.
The best kind.
So,
Yeah.
what really gets me about this operation
Yeah.
is the audacity.
Right.
I mean,
Dig a tunnel?
digging a tunnel
In secret.
in secret
Right under their noses.
under the Soviets' noses
Just to listen to their phone calls.
to tap their communication lines.
It's unbelievable.
This is a huge feat of engineering.
Oh, yeah.
And it really shows you
How high the stakes were.
just how high the stakes were
Absolutely.
during the Cold War.
Yeah.
So before we get into the actual tunnel,
Okay.
let's set the scene.
Yeah.
We're talking
Early Cold War.
early years of the Cold War,
Right.
1948.
Okay.
What was the intelligence landscape like back then?
Well, tensions were
The
the U.S. and the Soviet Union.
Right.
They were really escalating.
Mm-hmm.
And the U.S. realized,
They were behind.
yeah, they were lagging behind.
In intelligence.
Yeah.
They needed
A new way
a new way
to keep tabs on what the Soviets were up to.
to watch the Soviets, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
they needed a new approach.
Right.
Why Berlin?
Why Berlin?
Why Berlin?
Why?
Was it just because it was divided?
I mean, it was a divided city, so
Yeah.
that's part of it.
A unique opportunity.
Right. Yeah.
What else?
But the U.S. also had
They had agents.
a network of agents in East Berlin.
Okay, so
Yeah.
they were already there.
Yeah.
So these
They
agents,
were really good.
what did they get access to?
They managed to get into the East German Post and Telecommunications Network.
Really?
Yeah.
So-
So that meant,
Soviet communications,
we're vulnerable.
potentially.
Yeah, potentially.
So just tap the right cables.
In theory.
In theory.
In theory, yeah.
And you get the Soviets.
Yeah.
The Soviets weren't dummies.
No, they were not.
They had some tricks up their sleeves.
They were using all kinds of scrambling technology.
On their communication lines?
Yeah.
To make it really hard
Super hard.
to eavesdrop.
Can you imagine trying to listen in on a conversation
Yes.
where all the words are jumbled up?
Right.
It's like,
Trying to solve a puzzle
yeah.
while wearing noise-canceling headphones.
It's a good analogy.
I thought so.
And they were constantly
They were always upgrading their security to make it even harder.
Yeah.
So
What did the U.S. do?
what did they do?
Did they try to crack the codes?
Crack the codes.
Yeah,
I bet they did.
they did, but it was a constant back and forth.
Oh, I bet.
Meanwhile,
Meanwhile,
there were other things they were thinking about.
more direct approaches.
Yeah, like tapping into cables running through the East Zone.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So physically getting in there,
Yeah, but it was risky.
short-lived,
They needed something.
more permanent,
They needed something more permanent.
more reliable.
And that's where the tunnel idea comes in.
Exactly.
But we're not talking about just a little tunnel.
No, no.
The document mentions
1,400 feet.
over 1,400 feet long.
Wow.
That's longer
Then 4 football fields.
than 4 football fields.
End to end.
How do you even begin to plan something that big?
It was a nightmare.
In secret?
Logistically, engineering-wise,
Under the Soviets' noses?
I know, it's crazy.
Right.
First, they needed a location.
A location.
That wouldn't be suspicious.
Okay.
Then there's the how.
The how.
How do you dig a tunnel that long
Right.
and get rid of the dirt?
Silently. Quietly.
I know, it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle. So how did they solve this puzzle?
Well, first they needed the perfect cover.
Right.
A warehouse.
A warehouse?
A normal-looking 2-story warehouse
Okay,
in a remote part of Berlin.
just blending in.
Blending right in.
Except not so regular.
Not quite.
Right.
It had a secret,
What?
hidden basement.
No way.
Yeah,
And that's the entrance to the tunnel?
that's the entrance.
This is brilliant.
I know, right?
So the basement is like the staging ground,
yeah, the whole operation.
and above ground,
Totally normal.
it's the perfect front.
Perfect.
They even had a cover story.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
Storage facility for the U.S. Army.
Clever.
Right.
Hiding in plain sight.
Right under their noses.
The Soviets would never suspect a thing.
It's amazing.
A really clever disguise.
But that was just the beginning.
Right.
The real challenge.
You're digging.
Digging the tunnel.
That's next time.
That's where we'll pick up next time on our deep dive into Operation Gold.
Can't wait.
All right. Welcome back to our deep dive into Operation Gold.
Operation Gold.
The Berlin Tunnel.
Right.
Last time we left off,
We did?
The U.S. is building this warehouse, seemingly ordinary warehouse, but with the secret underneath.
Big secret.
The entrance to the tunnel.
The tunnel.
Leading right to those Soviet communication lines. I gotta know.
Yeah.
How did they build this tunnel?
Yeah.
Over 1,400 feet long?
It's a long tunnel.
Without anyone noticing.
It's pretty amazing.
It's mind-boggling.
Especially back then.
Early 1950s.
Yeah, think about it.
A technology we have today.
They didn't exist.
They didn't have those giant digging machines.
No, no way.
Without attracting attention.
Right?
So how did they do it?
Well,
did they have like
an army of
moles?
Not quite moles.
Working around the clock.
It was a massive project.
Yeah.
Required a lot of ingenuity. They came up with this system.
What kind of system?
A tunnel boring system.
Okay.
With a shield.
What's the shield for?
To support the tunnel.
Oh.
Prevent cave-ins.
That makes sense.
Because the soil in Berlin.
What's it like?
It's mostly sand and gravel.
Oh, that's not good.
Not very stable.
No.
So the shield was essential.
With the structure of the tunnel.
Yeah, to keep it from collapsing.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, they had the shield.
But what about all the dirt?
That's the thing.
You can't just
have a mountain of dirt.
Right outside the warehouse.
Exactly.
So where did they put it?
They were smart.
What did they do?
They transported it back through the tunnel.
No way.
Yeah, a conveyor belt system.
Through the tunnel they were building. And then
they loaded it onto trucks.
Regular trucks.
Disguised as delivery trucks.
Wow.
Blending in with the Berlin traffic.
That's incredible.
Thinking outside the box.
That's wild.
It's pretty amazing.
So they made it look totally normal.
That was the key.
Let's talk about the people.
The people involved.
Yeah, who was involved in this operation?
Hundreds of people.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of people?
Engineers, construction workers.
Okay.
Translators, analysts. And of course, agents on the ground.
In East Berlin.
Yep.
So many people.
And it's a massive undertaking.
One of the biggest challenges.
What was it?
Finding the right people.
For the job.
For the job. Who could pass security clearances.
Exactly.
Especially finding Russian speakers.
Ah, that was tough.
I bet.
The CIA, not exactly overflowing with Russian speakers.
At that time, no.
So they had to be creative.
Where did they find them?
Different backgrounds. Some had ties to Eastern Europe.
Okay.
Some had fled the Soviet Union.
Right.
Some had no experience in intelligence at all.
Really?
But they had the language skills.
That's amazing.
Yeah, everyday people.
Thrust into
the world of espionage.
That must have been crazy.
It's a culture shock.
For some of them.
Yeah.
But they were all willing
to take on this risky mission.
It was top secret. Extremely top secret.
So how did they keep it a secret?
Compartmentalization.
What does that mean?
People working on the tunnel didn't know what they were building.
Really?
They had no idea.
So they didn't know the real purpose. Oh, that's fascinating.
It's how they kept it under wraps.
But the tunnel was just the first step.
Right. It was a means to an end.
The real goal was the intelligence.
From those Soviet communication lines. And in February 1955. The tunnel was complete.
They did it.
They did it.
And then
they tapped into 3 main cables.
Carrying Soviet communications?
That's right.
So they were listening.
Listening in.
On the Soviets? Did they get information right away?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of information?
Thousands of conversations.
Really?
Yep, all kinds of stuff.
Like what?
Troop movements, military exercises, political directives.
Wow. Even scientific research?
A treasure trove.
For 11 months.
11 months. That's incredible.
A window into the Soviet machine.
Can you give us some examples?
Sure.
Of the intel they gathered?
One of the biggest things was insight into Soviet forces in East Germany.
Really?
They learned about specific units.
Okay.
Their equipment, their training, even their morale.
That's valuable.
Very valuable.
For Western military planners.
Oh, yeah.
Because before...
They had to rely on other sources.
Which weren't as good.
Right.
So this was a real-time view...
essentially.
...of Soviet capability.
That's right.
Wow. They could assess threats.
Plan countermeasures.
Exactly.
That's huge.
And they intercepted communications between Moscow and East German officials.
Really?
Yep. They could see...
Soviet political strategies.
Yeah.
Their efforts to control East Germany.
It was like reading their playbook.
It's unbelievable how much information they were able to get.
An intelligence coup.
But it couldn't last forever.
No.
What happened? What brought this operation to an end?
We'll find out.
Next time.
When we return for the final part.
Part 3.
Of our deep dive. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about Operation Gold, the Berlin Tunnel. And it's just incredible to me. The U.S. tapped into Soviet communication lines for almost a year. It really is stranger than fiction.
It sounds like a movie.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, a real Cold War thriller.
And for 11 months, it was a success.
A big success.
But like any secret operation,
There's always a
of
check.
getting caught.
Of exposure, yeah.
So let's talk about April 1956. What happened? How did the Soviets finally find the tunnel after all this time?
Well, there's a lot of debate
About how they found it.
about the exact details, yeah.
But it seems like a bunch of things came together.
To end the operation. It
And
wasn't
right-
like...
Some dramatic raid
Right.
or a tip from a double agent. It seems like the Soviets were just
Doing their regular...
cable maintenance.
Yeah.
And they stumbled upon the tap
Wow, so after almost a year...
of top secret intelligence. It all came down to a routine check.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
It's almost anticlimactic.
I know, but think about it.
What do you mean?
The Soviets, why did they wait so long?
To expose the tunnel
Yeah, they could have used it.
to their advantage.
They could have fed the U.S. bad information.
Right, disinformation.
Right.
That's a good point.
It seems strange, doesn't it?
Yeah, why wouldn't they exploit it right away?
What does the CIA report say?
About their delayed reaction?
Well, it suggests the Soviets were hesitant
About what?
to reveal their own knowledge.
Of Western intelligence.
Exactly.
So they didn't want to tip off the U.S.
And their allies, yeah.
that the Soviets had infiltrated their intelligence networks.
They had to protect their own agents,
It was a balancing act.
maintaining their own cover,
But also,
using the tunnel for propaganda.
when they finally revealed it.
Yeah.
So they exposed the tunnel.
They got a propaganda win.
But it didn't reveal their own secrets.
Exactly.
And the timing was important.
It was right before a big Communist Party Congress
So they used it
to look strong.
and denounced the West.
Exactly.
I bet it was a nightmare for the U.S.
I can imagine.
U.S. caught spying.
In the headlines.
How did the U.S. respond?
Flat denial.
They just denied it,
They wouldn't admit to anything.
which made the Soviets' propaganda even stronger.
Of course.
They were caught between a rock and a hard place.
They couldn't admit to spying.
And they couldn't let the Soviets control the story.
Exactly.
And then to make things worse.
A double agent.
One.
What?
George Blake
He leaked information about the tunnel.
to the Soviets.
So they knew all along.
Maybe.
How much of their reaction was calculated?
They'll never know for sure.
It's wild.
It really is.
But despite all of that,
Operation Gold was a success
in terms of intelligence,
for the U.S.
what happened to all that intelligence?
It was valuable.
It was.
Oh, yeah.
How?
It changed the West's understanding of the Soviets. Their capabilities, their intentions. So they used it for strategic planning,
Yes.
policy decisions.
Definitely.
It even shaped the Cold War.
I think so.
Can you give us some specific examples
Sure.
of how they used the intelligence?
Well, the info on Soviet troops,
Yeah.
their deployments, their exercises, that helped NATO
With their defense strategy.
in Europe.
So they got a clearer picture
of the threat
and they could respond better.
more effectively, yes.
So it wasn't just about gathering
It
information
was about using it.
to protect the West.
Exactly.
And it went beyond the military.
Right.
They learned about Soviet politics
Yeah, their maneuvering, their propaganda.
and their Cold War strategy.
It was all valuable for diplomats
For policymakers.
trying to understand the Soviets,
It's
the impact of this one operation,
on so many things.
military diplomacy.
But Operation Gold wasn't just about winning,
It taught us some lessons.
about intelligence
It shows how important innovation is.
and adapting to the situation
They had to overcome so many challenges.
to stay ahead of the Soviets.
Exactly.
And it shows how important human intelligence is,
Absolutely.
even with all our technology today.
It was people on the ground who made this happen,
They were the ones
providing access and information.
that technology couldn't get.
It's a reminder.
That technology is just a tool.
The human element,
Courage.
ingenuity,
That makes the difference.
in espionage,
The Berlin Tunnel. It's an amazing story.
engineering, ingenuity, espionage.
It really captures the imagination,
Decades later,
but it also makes you think,
about the future of intelligence.
with all the new technology,
What challenges will we face?
what ethical problems?
What can we learn from the past?
To use these tools responsibly.
Ethically.
The story of Operation Gold.
It's about the search for information,
The quest for knowledge.
a human endeavor.
The methods might change.
But the stakes are high,
The Berlin Tunnel.
a symbol of ingenuity,
And risk.
the importance of intelligence.
In shaping history.
And that's Operation Gold.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Berlin Tunnel.
It's a pleasure.
We encourage you to check out the source documents.
Learn more about this amazing story.
Until next time,
Keep exploring.
keep questioning.
And keep learning.